Welcome to DNA of Grace. So, we are in this continuation of this series of what is Christianity. So, we have already established from the last two segments God's creation and what happened to that creation, and now what is the result of it, that creation is, and now what is God going to do about it? Because can we do something about it? But we are all in it together. So we realize now when we go into the book of Genesis, now if you are not a believer of if you're not a Christian, or if you're not a believer of Christ, or you're just looking into this, what Christianity is, so I just want to make it simple as possible for you to understand what the whole process is and what is going on. So when God created the man, and a man did something God said not to do, and it became a real challenging situation. And then he had children with his partner, his wife was there, and it's about marriage there, but we will talk about it some other time, what marriage is. And but that they had two children at the beginning, two boys, and we know that Cain and Abel, what that story is about. But that entire group, after a few generations, became so disruptive. It's actually the Bible says that then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on earth. So we actually don't understand what kind of wickedness that was. That their every intent of the thoughts of his heart was evil continually. Every thought was evil. There was no good to be found. Every thought was disruptive. So God has to do something about it, and then God brought the flood. We know this, the greatest story of Noah. But Noah somehow rather believed in God to help him. So God had to help him because he believed. So faith became an issue there, and God helped him. And you know the Noah's Ark, you probably have heard, and the stories. Noah and his family escaped that flood, and the flood was so long and so intense, and everything on earth died except them. And so it goes on to, then God made a covenant with Noah. But this covenant, man did not have the strength to do it, because they are continually evil. Somehow or other, the DNA of man has not changed from that disobedience in the Garden of Eden. So it will continue in few generations again. It became bad and continue to go downhill. So God had to come and do something again. So God anyway found certain people on the whole process that God can deal with that, and God will help them to come to know who God is and to know who their father is. Now Abraham was one of them. We know the story of Abraham. So Abraham got a covenant from God, and we see that in the book of Genesis again, chapter 12. God talks to Abraham, say, leave your country and your family and go. Now God is trying to separate, because the influence of this evil makes it difficult for him to walk with God. So God is dealing with that, and Abraham got a promise. First one who got a promise was Abraham. And Abraham, then it became his son Isaac. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Joseph. That's the lineage. After that, it became downhill. So till Moses came, so God had to give them something to make them realize, hey, every time I find somebody, this is going downhill. And then God had to bring something to make them realize, when they are crossing the line, that they are going away from God, but they are crossing a line. So God had to put something there, like a boundary line, so that when man cross that line, they realize, oh, I'm not in relationship with God. I'm having I'm going on the opposite direction. That's how the Moses came about. Moses and the law and the Ten Commandments and the law to live with man, each other. So God gave them covenant. That's the first commandment, first covenant, and the commandments, 12 commandments and 10 commandments, and the 613 laws to live with one another. And to a certain way to walk with God, God was willing to give them an ear to cover up their sins from the blood that the sacrifice would bring. So that was the plan. But the man could not completely cleanse because their inside still has the DNA, because they could not recognize that it need to be a full cleansing or full creation has to be done within you, because your spirit has to spirit has to change, and that spirit has to influence the soul to understand it, where our soul is our understanding, emotions, and our decision making, and all that is, and our belief system, and all that, then it will manifest in the natural. Now, this covenant that God brought with through Moses is not complete, because that soul aspect was not there. Some of the people were found out, just like anything today's. Some people are able to see some things and go forward and grab hold of it and make it theirs. Now, in that, from Moses coming down, one of them were there. After that, there were kings. One of them was David. David was able to see some things because he was more into relationship, and he had a relationship with God by singing and pouring out his heart, and that became a opportunity for him to reach out to God more than just keeping a set of laws, because it became faith. Your belief has got involved in it, and evolved from just staying down in the line of the law to go further. So there were these things, but God could not complete this because that covenant also man didn't have the power to keep, because their inside is not changed. It's just set of rules. Man had the nature to break rules, so they kept on breaking and coming back. And if you see it in the from Moses onwards, so much of things are happening now. But the amazing thing is that at the beginning itself, when Adam disobeyed God by eating of the knowledge of good and evil, there were certain repercussions to their action, Adam and Eve. And for Adam, if you see it in the Genesis in chapter 2 or 3, and you see that what was happening there, chapter 2 actually, and then it goes on to say that God gives a prophecy that actually spoke to the other entity which came through the serpent, told that entity, the seed of the woman is going to crush your head. And that is at the beginning itself. So God had a plan. This is coming. But this is also a part of the plan. It's interesting to see, as much as free will is concerned, man chooses, and the flood has to come, even though it was not a plan, that God didn't want to do that, but it was the whole thing to bring about. This is coming through, so God has to bring about different boundary lines, different standards to bring us back to Himself. So if you really see, that is what is happening, and there was a plan that God was going to do something about this, but this is the first covenant, and they did not have the strength to keep it. They kept on falling short of it. So let's look at the next segment and find out what did God do about this. It's interesting how this plan is coming to pass and what the end result will be. It is a plan.